Hey everyone, welcome back. I have Ashley here today, and we're going to talk all about core vocabulary and dramatic play and how it kind of goes in all together. But before I do that, I'm going to let Ashley introduce herself. So, hi, welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm Ashley. As Heather said, I'm the face behind Spectacular Days. I have been teaching, and I just did the math, mind you. It's 12 years. I'm like entering my 12th year of teaching. I thought it was 13, so that's poor for me. 1 year back. I have been teaching for 12 years. I have done middle school, elementary, and I have recently switched into early childhood, and I'm entering my third year, and I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, it's been fun watching you go into your early childhood journey here, and you're like, I don't know if this is what I want, but I'm gonna go back for my master's. And it was like a fun conversation to have. So if you don't know, Ashley and I are friends outside of just doing these online business things. So yeah, her and I have connected a lot along the way.
Oh, you're
Um,
like my sanity. Like when I'm like, Heather, I don't know.
yes, yes. And so it's nice to kind of have those people to talk about, core vocabulary with, but also like what you read this weekend. Um, Totally good combo of both. So, while we get into it, why don't you go ahead and tell us what is core vocabulary if somebody hasn't heard of that before?
Yes, core vocabulary, it's a set of words that are frequently used in oral and written language. You can use it across many settings, environments, and it makes up about 80% of the words we use. So I'll give you an example so people are like, what does that mean? Like up, down, in, out, help, mine. Those are core vocabulary words. They get a little bit broader, but there are, I think it's about 100-ish is what the AAC world has deemed like the most common core vocabulary words.
Yeah, so think of words that you say all the time. The, at, all those types of things. Him, her, all those types of things totally come into it. And so then now let's bring in dramatic play. Like what is that and what does that look like?
So dramatic play also can be known as pretend play, make believe. And this is a type of play where kids take on roles and act them out. They pretend they're in a different environment. They can use real or imaginary objects. So they might take a pencil and maybe it's a wand or,
Mm.
it's a stir depending on what unit we're working on. But it can be using imaginary objects or real objects with imaginary play.
Yeah, I've been watching you obviously over the years and like the way you bring in like a whole cooking unit in dramatic play. And then the next week it's all about firefighters. And then the week after that it's about veterinarians. And it's like really fun to see because you could bring in so many different skills and topics into that of community helpers or like, yeah, steps to create a pie and like teaching students all of those things. So as we talk about core vocabulary with communication and learning and growth, but then also dramatic play with like immersing yourself in the learning educational experience. Like, how do you incorporate both of those things together? What does that look like?
It definitely was to process at first, but my speech pathologist has been amazing and has helped guide me a little bit and giving me some tips and tricks along the way. But the best one we have found that works seamlessly for my para and I is I have a core board and it's a piece of foam board and it has 8 spots on it. And I choose 8 common core words that I start the year off with almost every year. And then, depending on where we are in the school year, I will pick and choose which would go beneficially with the thematic unit that I've chosen. So, firefighters, for example, I might pick up and down. You go up the ladder, you go down the ladder, you go, up onto the roof, you go down off the roof, things like that that can be used more frequently. Like, I'm not going to choose the word eat if we're not doing a cooking unit. Like if I'm doing veterinarian, probably not the best option to choose. Um, so that's how I choose the words. But I typically keep, more all done, yes and no are typically the ones that are always used. And then when I change out the units, I pick 4 new ones that kind of go with it. As long as my students have progressed and have understood have a good understanding of those core words that we use. And I use them in dramatic play. I use them in my block center. And I have one of these core boards in 4 different spots in my room. I have one up by my Promethean board. I have one in art center, one in dramatic play, and one in block. So they're very easily accessible to snag off
Mhm.
the wall, bring into the center, and integrate them to model for students.
Yeah. How long do you spend on a unit typically? So like how often do you feel like those words are getting rotated?
So we do typically 2-week units, but that doesn't mean the words would change. It
Okay.
sometimes they work well from one unit to the next. So I do 2-week units, and the reason I did that was the girl I was doing ECSE with last year. We would take a unit for a month. She would do half for 2 weeks, and then I would do it, and then we would swap. Um,
Mhm.
this year I'm sharing a room. So depending on the skill set of our learners, we might be able to go longer. We might be able to go, an entire month with a unit and maybe just change out things here or there.
Yeah.
Even if it's just changing out blocks or just changing out the art center type of thing. So honestly, it really depends on your learners. Last year, they took to it really well. So we were able to progressively get through different words as the year went on.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know also with core vocabulary, modeling, especially in ECSE, is a big component of understanding core vocabulary and all those things. So how do you use modeling with dramatic play and modeling play engagement and all those things?
So, yes, sometimes I feel like a silly person when I'm describing and talking, and I feel like I'm in like a play for 4 hours. I'm like over exaggeratory and, very excited. I'll be like, look, we're putting it on top. And I'm modeling like taking the cupcake and putting the icing on top, or we're
Yeah.
turning or stirring. Depending on my learner, like I'm hand over hand, like turning and hitting their AAC device, like turn or more. Other learners, I just hold the picture card and I'm
Mhm.
modeling more, your turn, more. I don't use more than 1 or 2 words per day because I feel like that's a little overwhelming for my
Yeah.
friend, unless I realize that my student could handle that. Like if they're a verbal student and they're communicating with their words, I had a student come to me saying 1 to 2 word utterances, and at the end of last year, the student was using full sentences, and that's wonderful.
That's
So
awesome.
as progressive, like as this child became, we used more things. And that student I started to use as a peer model. Look, Sally is stirring. She is turning, like, can you turn like Sally? So,
Mhm.
knowing your skill set of your students really does help the modeling process.
Yeah. Do you always work one-on-one with a student, or do you kind of have three or four different students that you're kind of working with at the same time?
So each center, I allow 3 to 4 kids. 4 is the absolute max, because then the centers aren't huge. You want to make sure that there's room and there's all materials for students to be able to properly engage. I try to guide them initially. So, like, if I have a friend that doesn't like art, I'm like, okay, Johnny's going to go to art first, get the art project out of the way, and then the reward almost by finishing that art thing is to go to one of the centers they
Yeah.
prefer. So sometimes I, like, initially in the beginning of the school year, I kind of put maybe some peer models type students with some students that need that modeling. It honestly depends. I try to do one-on-one for even like just a few minutes, depending on the student's tolerance for that. Other times I do a small group, but never more than 4, because at that point I don't think that they're engaged enough.
Yeah, for sure. I could see the benefits of being one-on-one, but then that could also be a lot for that student to constantly be hearing just you the whole time. But yeah, I could imagine it being like a 2 or a 3 where it's like we're all gonna play together and I'm gonna model a lot of these like words and what we're doing and acting it out. It's like you're basically saying it with all while also doing it, which you're right, it seems very silly that like you're like, let's put on, let's take off, like, all those things. So, where do you think teachers should start if they want to start using core vocabulary in their classroom?
Start with the basics, and those to me, and that's my opinion, is like yes, no, on, off, more, all done. Sometimes people use finished or all done. Whatever one you choose, stick with it forever. Like that's one that's people interchange a lot, but that's really hard for a student to also understand. So that's my tip. And then
Mhm.
help and mine. And those are a lot of things that can be used when eating. You can be like, do you want more? Are you all done? Yes or no when you hold up a choice.
Mhm.
Um, if they need help, those are like to help to open, help to close.
Yep.
Those are the ones I always start off with in the beginning of the school year. And then this year, which is a wonderful bonus, I have only one new student, which is unheard of, I feel like, in pre-K. So I have
Mhm.
9 kids that are coming back to me. So I feel like I can start a little bit higher because they've already had at least 1 or 2 years in ECSE under their belt. So
Mhm.
this might be like a game changer year for me where I'll be able to start off with maybe 8 different words.
Yeah, that's awesome. So fun. I can't wait to see how that goes and all the things that you continue to build and grow with your program. So what are some other things that maybe teachers should know about dramatic play or core vocabulary?
So a lot of it is modeling using short, simple sentences. Even if you're modeling, you can just say like turn. You don't have to recite exactly what you're doing, almost like you're scripting or narrating from like
Mhm.
an outside point of view. Um, but a lot of these skills go together. So by increasing their core vocabulary, it increases their verbal communication, whether that's through an AAC device, whether that's through talking. It also
Mhm.
increases their play skills because they understand more how to play functionally with toys and not, maybe line them up or just kind of look at them. They can play with them functionally. So that does really help a lot.
Yeah. And if you're looking for more information about dramatic play, I know Ashley and I have done a video, I think it was about last summer, where we kind of talk more about what dramatic play looks like, how do we find the materials, how to find the materials on a budget, because we know this could get expensive if you're constantly swapping out materials and things like that. So if you're looking for more information about dramatic play, I will make sure to link that below. But Ashley, do you have any other resources or materials that you want to share with us?
Yeah, so I have a blog post that I just wrote all about core vocabulary, which is really helpful. I have like a download in there that gives you like all the core vocabulary options and how you can use them in your classroom. And then it has the example of my core board on there as well. So you
Awesome.
kind of know what it looks like and how to find it.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for being here. If you have any questions about core vocabulary or dramatic play, you're welcome to comment below. And if I don't have the answer, I'll get Ashley to answer it for you. But thank you for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.